B'schus ha'reitze b'ilum shmoi, should have all the brachas, everything needed and wanted, zaracha v'kayama, emes shalom bayis, and alle gute Sachen. Michoel Dvorkin was born on Chodesh Teves Tov Reish Chovav. His father's name was Reb Chaim Yitzchak. His parents were Kopuster Chassidim, and he himself, in the beginning, was a chassid of the Magenovitz from Kopust. When the Magenovitz from Kopust passed away, and his son did not take over, so the family gathered to discuss who should he go to now. So Reb Chaim Yitzchak told his son, Michoel, and told him, Michoel, I know you, and I know that you're not going to be able to live without a Rebbe. You need to have a Rebbe. So travel to Lubavitch, and that's how Michoel came to Lubavitch. The Fidik Rebbe once related, once, on Simchas Bris Shoeva, there was a Fabrengen in my sukkah, meaning in the Fidik Rebbe's sukkah. There were a few from Anash over there, amongst them the chassid Michoel Dvorkin, which used to work in a forest, and his father was also in that business. Michoel was in a very breita feeling. After a while, I left the sukkah to my room, and then my father, the Rebbe Rashab, entered my room. At that moment, Reb Michoel came out of the sukkah and he screamed out loud, Yet nyekavo, tolga poga ad navo. There's nothing besides for the Eibishter. And his eyes were tearing. My father, the Rebbe Rashab, heard that and he said, these are birurim of a forest. And he added, even a simple thing, if you do it with a emes, then it's a good thing. And on the other hand, even something that's haskalah, if it's without any feeling, it's like it's dead. Rahman al-Itzlan. When the Fidik Rebbe was sent to Galus in the city of Kostroma, so Reb Michoel Dvorkin was sent there in order to prepare a living space for the Rebbe. He also prepared a mikveh over there, and he gathered a few kids and created a cheder. And when the Rebbe related that, he said, that Yehuda shalach lefonav goishna. And the Rebbe related like this, that the news about the release of the Fidik Rebbe and Yud Gimel Tammuz Taf Resh Pei Zayin came to Reb Michoel seemingly as a surprise, suddenly, without any anticipation in advance. In general, says the Rebbe, Reb Michoel Dvorkin was not always in a kav of medida ve'agbala, and his style was to always be in a lot of his pilos. So Reb Michoel took a small bottle of mashke, he held the bottle in his hand, and he danced for a long while around the house of the Fidik Rebbe. As he was dancing, he sang a niggin with words in Russian. He worked for a few years in a forest and he had business with Goyim, and that's why he had many expressions and words that he would say and sing in Russian. This was a Chassidish niggin on the inyan of Eined Levadoi. Yet Nyekavo, Kromi, and here you say the Eibishter's name, and then Ad Navo. So Michoel sang it with mentioning Hashem's name, but since the halacha asks to say Hashem's name even in a language that is not Lashon HaKodesh, so later the Chassidim exchanged it with a different word, Kromi, Niva, Ad Navo, meaning there is nothing besides for him. Once Reb Michoel said, one time before Pesach, I managed to get a very expensive couch that was padded with a red padding, similar to the couches who you would find in the very wealthy homes in Russia. And I brought it as a present to the Rebbe Rashab. I came with the couch to the house of the Rebbe at a very early hour on Erev Pesach. The shlepper brought the couch to the house of the Rebbe, and when the door opened, I saw the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin sitting by the table in the kitchen, eating white bread with butter. So I told the guy to put the couch in a corner. When the Rebbe passed and he saw the couch, he said to me, this is a couch of a graf, meaning like a duke, a very wealthy man. And the Rebbe explained, graf is Rosh Tevis, Gesund, Reich, Frum. May you also be a graf. And in truth, said Rebbe Michoel, all of these brachas were miskayim in me. Gesund, Baruch Hashem, I'm gesund. Reich, I'm reich. I'm not missing anything. Actually, when Rebbe Michoel related that story, he was very poor, and he didn't even have enough food for even a meal. However, that didn't influence his attitude and the way he viewed his life, and he felt himself like he had everything he needed. And Frum, for Frumkeit, there's no limit. The Fidik Rebbe once related, One time before Pesach, the Rebbe Rashab went into the room where they were koshering the kelim for Pesach. The seder was that even kelim that they only used for Pesach, when they took them out next year's Pesach, they will kosher them again, even though they were not used the whole year around. And during the koshering, the Rebbe Rashab would supervise. So when they koshered the samovar, the kettle, the Rebbe Rashab threw into the water a few whitened stones, few burning hot stones, and he turned on the faucet of the water. Boiling hot water spilled on the hand of the Rebbe. So Rebbe Michoel, who was standing there, screamed, "Ay, Rebbe, you're burning yourself." So the Rebbe Rashab answered him with a shiny, happy face, "The fingers are not chasidim. A chassid, whether it's cold for him or hot for him, it doesn't have to hold him back from doing that which needs to be done." Fidik Rebbe related, Chag Pesach Tov Resh Ayin Vav, the Chassid Reb Michoel Dvorkin sang the famous nigun that the tzaddik Reb Michoel Dvorkin sang before the Baal Shem Tov. My father, the Rebbe Rashab, was in a very uplifted matzav ruach, very uplifted mood, and his heilige face shined behadras kodesh. You're able to tell clearly that he is going through memories in his head that have to do with this nigun. When Reb Michoel finished singing, my father said that this nigun they sang in the second night of Pesach, Tov Reish Lamed Ches, by the Rebbe Maharash, in two nuschos. And my father, the Rebbe Maharash, said that the nusach that Rebbe Michoel sang, that is the more correct nusach. And the Rebbe Rashab continued, this nigun brings to psichas alev, to achsidische yiras kavod, to a desire and hope, which this is the chut ha-meshulash of avodah that the Rebbeim implant in Chsidim and Achsidische Fabrengen. When you go out in Achsidische Nigun of Ahav Asachim, once at a different Fabrengen by the Fidik Rebbe, Rebbe Michoel sang this Nigun of Michoel Zalchever, and the Rebbe said, I owe a favor to Rebbe Michoel Dvorkin, that in the schus of his Nigun, I once was zeiche to hear from my father a biur for a few hours on the inyan of Oires de Toyu and Kelim de Tikkun. And this was the story, says the Fidik Rebbe. My father would come visit me often. Once my father came to visit, and when he passed through the rooms, he needed to pass through the hallway. Suddenly, Michoel Dvorkin ran in. He ran in from the courtyard to the hallway, and he started to dance around the room with a nigun in Russian, Yet Nyet Nyekavo, Kromi Voga Ad Navo. When Michoel danced, he was completely red, and he danced with his whole being. My father stayed standing behind the door because he didn't want to disturb him, till Michoel Dvorkin left the hallway. And then my father told me, this nigun of Michoel came from a forest. It's a nigun of a forest. This does not come to him from the Zohar or from Eitz Chaim. It comes from the forest. And he explained me then, Be'arichus, the inyan of Oires de Toyu in Kelim de Tikkun. Later in the Fabrengen, the Fidik Rebbe asked Reb Michoel if he remembers the nigun. So Reb Michoel answered, it's not a nigun, it's a hisbonenus. At a different opportunity, after Reb Michoel sang the nigun of Michoel Zalchever by the Fidik Rebbe's Fabrengen, the Fidik Rebbe related, once Reb Michoel sang this nigun before my father in Rostov, and my father very much enjoyed the nigun, and he expressed himself in dem nigun herzich Baal Shem. In this nigun, you could feel the Baal Shem Tov. Afterwards, the Fidik Rebbe turned to Michoel and he told him, I owe you a favor very much, because when we remember such a vart, meaning the vart that my father said, and we repeat it with a hergesh pnimi, the way it was in the time when we heard it, it brings to a certain ruach tahara, and to a bright light that shines for generations. Michoel eventually moved to Eretz Yisrael, and years later, he moved to New York to live by the Fidik Rebbe. Here is the letter that Michoel Dvorkin wrote to the Fidik Rebbe, asking permission to come to New York. And he writes like this, Kvoid Dushas Admar Shlita. Thank you to the Eibishter for the bracha that you benched me with Arichus Yamim Beshanim. And I'm sure that the bracha will be fulfilled as it is written, V'ani Avarechem, meaning that the Rebbe will be benched also. I remember the scene in Simchas Torah in the big Zal in Lubavitch when they were singing Nizuriche Chlovtzi. The continuation of the tune, the part without the words, they didn't sing, but the words they sang with tremendous eslavus for a while. The Rebbe, meaning he's referring to the Rebbe Rashab, said, this nigun I meyaches to the Chassidim of the Mittel Rebbe. They would sing this when they would travel to the Rebbe. They were kaptzonim betler, meaning they were very poor, and they didn't have gashmias. When they came to the Rebbe, they were not missing any ruchnias. Afterwards, the Rebbe Rashab said, that which it said, that Anoichi Oimed ben Hashem u'beinechem, that I'm standing between Hashem and between you, this is the Michoel Rebbe. He was mamshich ein soif in the neshamas of the Yidden without any memutzayim. Then the Rebbe was silent for a few moments. This is all Reb Michoel describing in a letter that he writes to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And then the Rebbe said, but I am a chassid of my father. Reb Michoel continues to write, Dr. Krieger told me that I have permission to travel on a boat to America, and I have enough money to be able to pay for it. Therefore, I'm asking the Rebbe for permission to come and see the Rebbe, b'simchu v'tuv levav, and to hear Chassidus. Hop Kazak, your servant, Michoel ben Leah Machle. Michoel Take came to 770, and he stayed there until his last day. And when Frierdiker Rebbe heard that Michoel came, he called the Baruch Haskin, and he told him, Michoel came, and he needs money to be able to leave. He doesn't have a source of parnasa. So I'm asking you that you should make sure that they rent for him a place, and you should give him money monthly. I will give you the money, but Michoel is not allowed to know that the money is from me. The whole entire day, Michoel would sit in 770 and listen to the learning of the Talmidim, and he will make as if he's not listening. He will sit on a bench, put one foot on the other, and it would look like as if he's just staring in the air. But when he noticed that one of the Talmidim explained the Gemara wrong, he would turn to him and he would say, you are hacking in Chinik. On Erev Chag HaShavuos Tavshin Tes, Reb Michoel went to the mikveh. When he came home, he felt bad. All of a sudden, he felt sick. A doctor that came found him that he passed away. So they right away told the Rebbe, our Rebbe, and the Rebbe took care of all the details for his levaya. He gathered the money needed for the kvura, and he made sure that he got a doctor to sign that he could be buried. The thing is that the law in the United States says that in order to bury somebody, you need a document signed by a doctor that explains the cause for the death. And there was some sort of a complication with getting Reb Michoel's document signed. Since it was Erev Shavuos, so they knew that if they're not going to do the Levaya that day, the Levaya will only be in 3 days from now. So the Rebbe asked that people should get it done. So they spoke with a certain doctor and they asked that he should sign it. First he refused and he said that I cannot properly establish the cause for the death because they didn't take a x-ray of the body. Eventually he agreed on a condition. If the Rebbe promises him that he's giving him as a present his Olam Abba. So when the Rebbe heard about it, he said he agrees, but the doctor wasn't satisfied and he asked there 2 Eidim for that. So they brought 2 Eidim. Then the Rebbe said that he's going to give him his Olam Abba, and only then he agreed to sign it, and that's how they were able to do Reb Michoel's Levaya on that day. Reb Michoel Zochever's Niggin deserves a episode for itself, so we'll do it as a separate episode. We'll finish off with a Niggin that was Chaviv by Reb Michoel Dvorkin.